Was he your first family member you told?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I got a phone call last February that he told me.
Did he know you were gay when...
Yeah, Dick came out to me, I guess, in 1980, before I was ever out. I knew, I think at the time, that I was gay, but was not dealing with it at all. And you told me that he chose to tell me in case something ever happened to him. He wanted someone in the family to know that he had a group of friends that we may not know about.
Uh-huh. Did he know you were gay at the time he told you?
No.
No.
Were you surprised when your brother told him?
Actually, I was very surprised when he came out.
That surprises me. Oh, you weren't surprised that he came out, you were surprised that he was gay.
Yes.
He's your brother. How could you miss it?
Well, we're 6 years apart, and when we were growing up, we were never close. I did my thing.
You
and
got
he
out
did
of high
his
school,
thing.
he came in, and you weren't ever there when he was there.
Right.
And then I came out to my parents first before he did.
Uh-huh. How did you feel when you learned that your brother was gay?
It's been an incredible, incredible thing between us. It brought us much, much closer.
Yeah, but how did you feel at the moment he told you?
I was floored.
Floored, disappointed?
Not disappointed at all, because I basically thought I was the only one in the family. And to find out that I had someone else in the family that I could share my thoughts and feelings with made a great deal of difference in my life. It made me feel much more comfortable, and it made me feel like that somebody in the family I could converse with.
Philip, do I understand you to say that you think that there was a certain influence on your gayness exacted by your parents?
Some. I mean, I don't think that us both being gay really supports one theory more than the other. I think, you know, we've got 3 other siblings who are not gay, and I think that it could either be genetic or environment.
Yeah.
So
and how are your folks handling this? I understand you both raised rather traditional Catholic, is that so?
Roman Catholic, traditional.
Uh-huh. The church would want me to say that you don't have to be Catholic to be gay.
Right.
Are you saying, you're not here to say it helps, are you?
It doesn't. It's been very difficult with my parents, and I hope that we at some point can get back to a family relationship that's giving and sharing. It's been very difficult, and I understand that. And when I came out to them, I chose to come out to them before Dick was diagnosed and before they knew about Dick. And
yeah, I came out because I was diagnosed.
And
I gave them all that news in one phone call. I'm gay and I have AIDS in one phone call.
I wonder how many people are getting that kind of bomb dropped on them.
A lot, and that was one reason
there are people who would never come out except that they got AIDS.
And I would never have come out to my parents.
And I wanted to come out to them because it was so much of who I was, and I found myself pulling away from them with everything. They knew nothing about my life, and I, at the time, was working for the Human Rights Campaign Fund, which is the PAC, the national PAC, which supports candidates for federal Congress who support gay and lesbian issues and AIDS issues. And therefore, I'm political by nature, and every bit of my life was revolving around that, and I got involved in the issue because I cared a lot about it.
Okay.
So I felt I had to tell them.
Let me just alert this audience. Dr. Richard Green is here. He's a professor of psychiatry and law, director of psychiatry, law, and human sexuality at UCLA. Do I have that right?
Yes, sir.
UCLA. His book is titled The Sissy Boy Syndrome. This is how many, 44? How many people did you study?
We followed 44 boys over a 15-year period, from early grade school years to young manhood.
Now, these boys were, as we have rather flippantly referred to them as sissies, so?
Right. I use that term because no term better captures the pain and the stigma that these kids experienced by being boys in our culture and being different from other boys. They're called sissy. They wanted to be girls. Whenever they could, they dressed in girls' or mother's clothes.
Right. But you came into their life, professionally speaking, when they were how old?
Between 4 and 11.
So you had no idea how these young men would mature.
That's right.
But we presume that that all of these young men were effeminate, as we might say then. Is that so?
Or very feminine, yes.
Or very feminine.
Effeminate has a different quality of caricature. These boys were really identifying like girls because they wanted to be girls.
Did they all behave? You say effeminate is different than feminine. A young man who lived, what is that? What did I just mimic here? What would you call that?
I think people call that effeminate because it's not feminine in that how many women lisp. It's a caricature of what some people
think. Were these the 44?
No. No.
Were any of them the 44?
Some. A few of the boys.
And the ones who didn't behave as I just mimicked, and I mean this in no disrespectful way, because it must be awful to be effeminate. I mean, I'm sure
as a boy, it's very, in our society,
you get beat up, people throw stones at you.
You're stigmatized by the peer group. you're usually alienated from your father, because fathers want their sons to be little league stars and to be conventionally boyish. It's a very lonely time.
But the ones who didn't list, as I have mimicked, were what? Interested in Barbie dolls?
Yeah, the favorite toy of these boys is dress-up dolls and Barbie dolls. When these boys would role play in house games, mommy-daddy games, they'd be the mommy. When they imitate characters from television and movies, they're heroines, they're not heroes. All their friends are girls. They grow up socializing, being like girls. And of those boys, 3/4 of them became bisexual or gay men.
So, of the feminine or effeminate 44 original, only 25% became, as we would say, heterosexual.
Heterosexual or straight men.
So having a young boy who is interested in dressing up in his mother's shoes, who does it often, who cross-dresses often, who's interested in Barbie dolls, you're looking at a probability of a homosexual adulthood.
If you have a boy who wants to be a girl and speaks in the language of boyhood, which is doing it by dressing and by playing and so on, the odds are higher that that boy will become a bisexual or gay man than your conventional boy. But not absolute. There are conventional boys who grow up to become gay men, and there are cross-gendered or feminine boys who grow up to become straight men. But it's a probability only.
How do you feel about the Dufour's thesis here, Adam?
Well, I think as a scientist, I'm the token scientist here, I think the answer to the question, is homosexuality learned or inborn, is yes. It's a combination of both. And we, for example, in the Sissy Boy syndrome, I have a set of twins. They're genetically the same. Okay?
Are they identical twins?
Identical twins. But one boy was a very feminine boy and one was not. They had different early life experiences, different relationship with their mother and with their father, and their adult sexuality is different too. As long as you can find one set of twins...
You have identical twins,
right,
one of whom is gay and one of whom is heterosexual?
Is primarily gay and one is primarily straight. And one was
does that mean they're both
boy.
bisexual?
Yes. But there are degrees of bisexuality.
Huh?
They're degrees.
Well, no, all bisexuals are not all bisexuals. No.
I know sets of twins where one twin is gay and one is straight. And I know...
Identical?
Yes.
Yes.
And I know families where there are 5 boys and all 5 boys are gay, and their family life was totally different than ours.
Well,
I know boys who grew up, the football star, the whole 9 yards, and they're gay. And I mean, I know...
Let me
there's so
just
many
make
different
one point here. Not a few politically active gay people resent even the discussion or the question, what makes a person gay?
Right.
They see it as a prejudice. Nobody asks what makes a person straight. They see it as an effort to, once again, showcase gayness as an illness. And that promotes the stereotype, continues homophobia, and all the horror
I came
stories
on the
that
show with a tape in my head to say that I don't really think it matters whether it's environment or genetic.
Or I think we have to ask, why are we asking the question?
Right.
Really. If we're asking the question to demonstrate that it's prenatal, before birth or inborn, is the answer then going to lead to some kind of treatment or some kind of cure? See, that's the danger of asking it that way. On the other way is the danger of saying, well, it's perfectly a choice, okay?
Yeah.
Then you've got the issues of whether it's sinful, whether people should be able to change, and whether people should have to change. So it's not so much whether it's inborn or learned, but why are we asking the question? What do we expect the results of the answer to mean?
Yeah. Well, why are you asking the question?
Because I'm a scientist, and I'm interested. I don't think it's anything more fundamental to human personality than whether we think we're males or females, whether we behave in the way that our culture says is mannish or womanish, and who our sexual romantic partners are. It's a scientific question for us, but the answers have political implications.
They certainly do.
That's the risk.
They certainly do. I'll get to you in 1 second. Let me just get here. Benita Porter. Benita, you're 30, and you are a lesbian. You started dating women at the age of 13. And you know what it says here? You came out to your mom while you were watching the Donahue Show. Maybe we ain't so trashy, huh? You know what's fascinating to me, Benita, if I may call you by your first name, you watched the interracial lesbian couple, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
I'll tell you, there are people still mad at me for that program. Let me just say that at one occasion we featured an interracial lesbian couple who artificially inseminated the black woman with the sperm of the white woman's brother, and they had a biracial baby. And the baby, incidentally, was gorgeous. Can you imagine 2 women You watched it, huh?
Yeah, I did.
And you said to your mom what?
I didn't say anything. Actually, I was sitting there thinking, you know, she is a big fan of yours, or she was a big fan of yours. And after the show was over, it was very interesting to her about the interracial couple in general, and the fact that they were lesbians was really important to her. So she sort of said, well, do you think anybody could bend you in that direction? And I said, Ma, permanent angle, permanent tilt. And we got into this discussion about, and then she proceeded to name all of my girlfriends since, like, you know, 3rd grade. So she clearly had it in her mind and knew, but she hadn't actually said it. And I thought it was important for her to be able to bring up the topic. I mean, I brought Lovers home from the time I was in high school. And there wasn't any problem with that. I had a much bigger problem actually talking to my siblings than I did with my mother. So she's always, every time she would see you on the television, she'd go, he brought you out, didn't he?
But did she not also say if Phil can discuss this, I can handle
Right,
this?
she said, if he can be cool about it, then I can. And
So-
that was her response.
Uh-huh. So your relationship with your mom is good then?
Yeah.
Better than the Dufours with their parents?
Yeah, I've had, my mom died recently, and I think being the youngest, I was in some ways the closest to her, but my siblings had a really hard time with it. It took my brother about 10 years before he could say the L word, before he could say lesbian. Right, liberal's not it. So that was really difficult.
Liberal, lesbian, you know, anymore, they're both will get you
Doesn't
booze,
always
you
go
know.
together, but...
Aaron Kirby's next to you, Vanita. Aaron, you're a 29-year-old gay man. You say you grew up in a normal household. You've always known you were gay. You feel you were born that way? Do I understand this?
Oh, most definitely.
You've always dated men. How would you separate yourself from your own answer to the question from the others on the panel? We're getting here, incidentally, Dr. Green's suggestion, based as it is on his own scientific work, that sexual status is probably the result of the interaction of parenting, culture, and genetics, appears to be the most current, widely held, or at least looked at thesis offered by the behavioral community today. What do you think?
Well, if that's the reason why I am the way I am today, then I'm very happy that that's the reason why I am the way I am today. You know, it's in reaction to the Dufour statement, I do believe that your environment does change things. I also believe that environment changes a lot of people destined to maybe be a homosexual to become heterosexual. I mean, you're told from the minute you turn on a television that, you know, close-up brings you together and all of this, and you see it. It's ingrained. You see it constantly. I think that probably your environment causes more about making heterosexuals than it would homosexuals, actually.
Certainly in the black.
And yeah, and certainly, I mean, you know, we all grew up, or at least we did, in an environment with heterosexual parents.
Yeah. You know what knocks me out about all this? Apparently, the fetus in the first 6 weeks is girl, always a girl. You knew that? Oh, you're so
nature's
smart.
way.
I mean, you know, I can't tell anything.
Yeah, nature's way is to make
People
a
used to
female.
say, really? Now they say, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, Adam
Now,
really,
6 weeks
Adam
later,
came
we
out
get
of
the
Eve.
big hormone push here, huh?
Right.
That alters everything, including the development of genitalia, the brain,
right.
all.
right.
We shouldn't be surprised that some people are going to react in a different way to the hormone than,
Well,
right?
Yeah, and as some scientists think, that since femaleness is the natural way to evolve, and females are primarily sexually interested in males, okay, that perhaps if there aren't the, quote, right amounts of male hormone at certain times in development, that's what we see then as homosexuality. There are some scientists who actually do believe that. And there's some evidence for that.
There are more gay men than gay women.
Well, the Kinsey report said so, but the Kinsey reports are 25 years old.
What do you think?
I think there are probably more exclusively gay men, but I think that there's more, I think it's easier for women to have a same-sex experience because of the way that they're socialized than it is for men.
But they don't usually. There are fewer lesbians than there are gay men.
There may be fewer committed, you know, exclusive lesbians, but I think probably more women have some sexual romantic contact with other women than men do. Men have a whole different trip put on them from early boyhood that you're not a man, you can't be manly if you have
Girls can
physical
girls
touching
dance with each
men.
other in high school, in my own experience.
Yeah, the touching doesn't diminish them as women. It brings them closer together as people.
Yes. Joanne Hiley. Okay, Joanne. Here's the book on you. Do you mind if I tell this audience you're 56?
All right.
You should also know that you've been married 33 years.
33 in June.
To the one and only man,
Yes.
and it's been
It's been fantastic.
great. You've had a nice relation. How many kids?
We have one daughter, Jennifer.
And your husband is here with us. We'll chat with him in a moment. Are you telling me that you used to be a lesbian?
Yes.
No kidding. Now tell me about that. How old were you when you got married?
I got married at
I should figure this out.
24, I guess.
Yeah.
23, something
23,
like that.
okay.
Mhm.
And when were you a lesbian?
I was lesbian from 13 until 23.
And you said, I don't like this, and married the man of your dreams.
No, I didn't say I don't like this. What happened to me was there were a number of experiences in my life that showed me what homosexuality really was, and that was the thing that I evolved from, I suppose you would say. Basically,
What was it really?
Okay, what I believe, Phil, and what I've found out in my life is that God has a plan for us sexually, and that you have to go by His way, not by our way. His way is that the male was created, and He saw that it wasn't good for him to be alone, so He created a female to be his helpmate. Now, that was hard for me to take at first, because I thought, how could that be? Because I'm such a wonderful leader, and I'm very strong, and I'm talented, and all of these things. But the more I've looked at the truth, I believe this, Phil, that there's no such thing as a created homosexual. We're all created heterosexual. And that because of problems in the family, problems in the home.
So homosexuality is a bad thing.
It's not the created design of God.
Do people who are gay decide to be gay?
At first they do not, Phil, because it's primarily the impact, as he has discovered.
Well, if they have no control over it, then why is it a moral issue?
It's a moral issue because at a certain point there is the age of accountability. I mean, it's been proven, Phil, that people can have sex with anything. They can have sex with dead bodies. They can have sex with their mothers, their sisters, their brothers, with animals. I've had people attest to me about all of this. Now, the thing is, I believe that we have a choice, that we can make a decision about how we're going to use our sex organs.
Okay.
I don't believe that.
I don't either at all.
Well,
What is it you don't believe? Make your point, and I have to break.
Okay, well, first of all, I have no problem with the fact that she used to be a lesbian, because I know many people who are now gay who used to be heterosexual, who were married and have children and realized they are gay. I don't think it's a choice. I never made the choice. I didn't wake up one day and think, maybe I'll be gay. I think it looks more fun, and, you know,
I think what many doctors have discovered, such as Dr. Socarides here in New York City, is that a part of the whole problem with homosexuality is that it is a matter of suppressed emotions, and that it makes you appear as if you're functioning all right because you've learned to suppress these emotions.
But I don't understand why it's so important for you to bring this negative moral judgment to this sexual status.
I don't know why you call it judgment, Phil. It isn't judgment. I didn't determine it.
You're talking about repression.
Just a minute. I didn't determine it. I looked to what I thought was the plan for life.
I see.
And
So God
said,
determined it.
Yes.
So God brings a moral judgment to this.
Absolutely.
And the judgment is not so hot. He doesn't like it.
That's right.
And you're claiming you don't bring a judgment to this?
I don't know.
God does.
The Bible does, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right,
That's
you don't
the
have
way
to
it
be
is.
sorry. I appreciate your coming straight here, your comments around the
Well,
record.
you
I
see-
must break. You'll apologize for this. I do. I accept my apology for the interruption, but you will have an opportunity to chat with this audience in just a moment.
I have a question for the two gentlemen on the left. I'm wondering what it is about your environment that you feel caused you to be gay.
We were raised in an environment where our father traveled quite extensively and was not there, and our mother tends to be more assertive and domineering than I think a mother would have been if the father had been there the entire time. So we were pretty much raised by our mother. It's that typical syndrome you hear about, the domineering type mother.
Yes, this answer will also make a lot of gay people gay.
Yes, it does, but I also feel that that had something to do with it.
I think it does. In the sissy boy syndrome, I had two groups of boys, conventionally masculine and the feminine boys. The biggest difference between those two groups in the first 4 years of life was the amount of shared father-son experience. That is one variable that comes through clearest throughout the entire study. Less father-son time in the first years, more likely to emerge as bisexual, homosexual 15 years later.
That's exactly what we've found in our ministry in helping people out of homosexuality.
I never, however, wanted to be a girl. I never felt as though
Me either.
Okay.
I wanted
No,
to
it
be a
isn't
girl.
a question of wanting to be a girl.
First, I'd like to say, I don't think it's right for you two to put that off on your father. I think that's a terrible
I'm not
thing.
putting it off on my father. I'm saying that I think that affected the way I turned out.
But-
My father had to travel for a living. I'm
Okay.
not blaming him
The
for
other
it.
thing I wanted to
It's the
say
way
is-
things were.
Do you think that, it's going to sound terrible, but there is any way to, like, avoid your child turning out this way? I mean, not that, it sounds terrible, I know that, but
Oh, absolutely.
I mean-
yes, there's a book written about Dr. George Rakers that's called,
you're saying that you were like this because your father wasn't around. Now,
I'm saying that pushed me in that direction, but I like I said before, I think you're genetically predisposed to it.
I'd
And-
like to say that if there are parents that would like to prevent their children becoming homosexual, there's a book called Growing Up Straight by Dr. George Rakers
Let me say
that I
that
would
let me
recommend.
say that that's essentially nonsensical.
I'm happy the way I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a different point. That's a different point.
First,
Dr.
I
Green.
don't think there's any scientific research, Rekers or others, including mine, that you can take a child and say we're going to prevent that child from becoming gay, even if that were a legitimate goal.
That's been proven.
It has not been proven. You're absolutely
Yes, it
wrong.
has.
Secondly, I think the really important issue for parents is not to worry about their child 15 or 20 years down the road, but what can make this child happier today, tomorrow going back to school? What about the relationship with
Yeah.
his peer group?
But
That's what parents can focus on.
Right. If the father with the tattoos on his arm and his chest and the bullet hole from
Right.
World War II looks
Yeah.
down at his grandchild,
Or his
playing with a Barbie doll, and the
Okay.
blood is draining from his face,
this is
what would
very
be your, what, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of issues
Okay.
to this question. First of all, why are we responding this way to this kind of behavior? Second,
Okay.
what
Where we focus therapy, if you will, is enhancing the son and father relationship to teach the father that every little kid, every little boy doesn't have to be a Little League star or a future Marine, that there are lots of things fathers and sons can do that are comfortable for both the son, who's not a macho son, and for the father.
And you say that enhances what?
That enhances the boy's self-image, some degree of masculine identification, and if there's any effect of that on later sexual orientation, then perhaps that
So I
might
believe
also
that
change
it's
outcomes.
mostly genetic, and that what you learn from your environment mostly is how you deal with yourself as a person. And if that happens to be dealing with sexuality at whatever age, I believe that's what you get from home.
There is no proof
Okay.
of genetic.
There's no proof of
There is
environment
no
either.
proof of Well, you've already said environment.
I said it's a multiple cause.
I'll try to be brief. I had a boss who was married, had a son, got divorced, became gay, married a girl in our office, has a child with her. He does all the women's work, goes to business like a man and everything. What do you call this type of man?
What do you mean? He became gay and then married for
Married
the
for
second
the
time?
second time, had another
Did he tell
child.
his second wife that he was
She
gay?
knew all about
She
everything.
said, I'll marry you anyway, even though you're gay.
Right,
And
and
now
he
they
does-
have a kid?
And he does all the housework.
Yeah.
He goes to business, and they're very happy.
Which
Right
proves
back
this
to
is-
me.
How'd this guy
on the
escape the
side.
Donahue show? We should have him on here. Yeah.
I believe that it has to be mostly genetic, too, because these guys wouldn't put themselves through that. I mean, it's no fun being against the norm.
Yes, but just a
I mean,
second.
it's not fun for you
How
guys to
could-
be standing there and everybody's going, you're gay.
Let me ask you something.
It's
How
not-
could identical twins then be separate and one be homosexual and the other not?
How do you know that one isn't? Maybe he hasn't come out yet.
No, there is no way. They've
How do you
proven
know
it at
that?
a Harvard University study by
Yeah.
Dr. Vincent at Harvard University that identical twins, one can be homosexual and the other not.
I'm going to make a phone call to my brother. I used to dress up twin brothers, identical twins. I used to dress up one of my brothers. I'm an only daughter with 3 brothers. So I used to dress up my brother and put little wigs on him because I wanted a sister. I pray to God he's not gay. If he is, fine. The only thing I was going to say is,
That won't
Pray to
make him
God
gay.
he's not gay. If he is, fine.
but I hope to God he's not. I'm just going to grant him enough beingness to say, okay, he's gay. You know, that's him. Your fault. No, yeah, I know. But the other thing is, I can't understand this blaming God and giving him the responsibility that he made me this way. The other thing I was going to say about this.
Now we're still.
Okay. These guys, is like, is it, I don't know, I don't want to get into past life things, but maybe in a past life you were a woman, you don't know, who am I? You know, you guys.
I'm not blaming God. I'm not blaming anybody.
I don't blame
I'm not
anybody.
blaming anybody. I just. Yeah.
I just want to say, what about the parents? I mean, what responsibilities do we put on them now? All of a sudden you find a father saying, here, put these gloves on and beat up your brother or something
No,
to
we're not
cause a
saying that.
different kind of psyche here. I mean, what happens?
No, we're not saying that at
No,
all.
but what happens when there's a 5-year-old son and you say, no, listen, stay away from that, but I think he's messing with your socks again. Put the
No, we're not
boxing
saying
glove
that at
on.
all. We're not saying that at all. What
God,
we're
it could
talking
get
about,
crazy here for the parents.
what we're talking about
It already
is
is.
not boys who, we're not talking about boys who occasionally play with dolls. That's fine. Or occasionally, we're talking about boys who are uncomfortable being boys. And they speak in the language of childhood by only doing girl things. It's the unhappiness being a boy, not doing the girl things, that's the problem, if you will.
I have to break here
What took us so long to what?
to come out.
Well, you have
we
to
were brought
understand
up-
it's not a very easy thing to deal with. You're surrounded in a
We were
society
also brought up in
where
a small town, Catholic.
Kids,
You know,
Yeah, but you have to understand that you grow up in a society where you see no positive role models of gay people at all. Everything is ridicule or
Yeah.
Slander.
harassment, whatever,
Played
whatever.
for laughs,
Or you
So
told them
you have
They're what?
something.
They're played up for laughs
Yes,
and
they are.
situation
They are.
comedy.
Yes,
you have
imitating a
something going on
gay
inside
person
that
is
you
a
don't
cheap
know.
laugh.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Philip, I assume you've been tested.
Yes.
And
I'm
you're
negative.
you're negative.
Yes.
Dick, are you on AZT?
I was on AZT. I have developed a disease called CMV retinitis in the back of my eye, which causes blindness. I'm on an experimental treatment program with a drug called Foscarnet from Sweden, out of Houston, Texas, which stops the CMV. At this point, I'm not on the AZT.
Voluntarily you're off.
Right. The Foscarnet is an antiviral drug, which also shows effectiveness there in helping to curb the HIV virus.
So the drug you're taking, the Swedish drug, is probably not FDA approved.
It is not yet. No, I'm in a test program.
I see. And when were you diagnosed?
A year and a half ago, approximately.
Yeah, you look pretty emotionally okay to me.
It changed my entire life and made me a much happier person and made me deal with a lot of things I hadn't dealt with in my life.
You're not afraid to die?
Not at all.
No kidding.
Phil, I also don't think that you should assume, and anybody should assume that anybody with AIDS is necessarily fatal. I mean, I spend 90% of my working life working with people with AIDS. But the other thing I wanted to come back to is all this discussion is totally centered around boys and men. And the issue is that lots of women grow up, and maybe women are more comfortable about themselves and their sexuality because they get affection from other women, but I'm perfectly happy being a lesbian. And my relationship with my mother was fantastic. I'm sure there were environmental reasons, and I'm sure there are genetic ones, but I think that you can't look at gay men's sexuality without looking at lesbian
We
sexuality.
quite agree. I have to break, Doctor. My apologies for that. Someday we'll have 3 hours, no commercials, and we'll be back in just a moment.
To be part of the audience, write Donahue Tickets, care of NBC, New York, New York, 10112.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask the lady in the maroon suit, you're very fundamentally Christian now. And was this like a revelation from God that all of a sudden you're not going to be lesbian and you're going to go get married? Or what was it that decided?
Basically, what happened to me was I had a couple of lovers, lesbian lovers, and the more I got into the relationships, the more that I saw that there was not really love there, that there was a lot of violence, there was anger, and out of that, I determined that something was wrong. And so I began to search for what was right. And implying that God set up the standards for us, to me, is not a judgment from God. It's a benefit because he's telling us what is best for us.
I know a lot of
Let me say
heterosexual
that.
relationships that have a lot of violence.
Yeah, let me
and a lot
say
of
as a
hate there.
therapist.
The battered wife.
But I'm
Let me
not saying,
say-
I'm not saying, she asked me why I
Let
got
me
out
say
of
that
that.
as a psychiatrist who knows a lot of psychiatrists, they're supporting their kids through college, picking up the debris of a lot of heterosexual relationships. Being heterosexual doesn't
the
guarantee...
debris of gays who entered into heterosexual
No,
relations.
No, we can't equate aggression, violence, and bad relationships
I
with
wasn't-
one pattern of
I wasn't
sexual
doing
Let
identity.
me make his point.
Excuse me.
Psychiatrists primarily treat heterosexuals with all kinds of sexual and relationship problems. There are gays who have good relationships and bad, and there are straights who have good and bad. It is not linked to sexual orientation.
I didn't do that, sir. All I was saying, she asked me why I came out of the relationship, and that was the reason. That was my personal experience.
Yeah.
What I tried to say basically is that the relationship to me didn't match up with what God had created us for.
Yes.
That the sex organs were made to fit male-female, not
Over here,
otherwise.
please.
Well, I just wanted to say at this point, I'm a little confused why there's even a panel. I don't say, hi, my name's Ann, I'm heterosexual, and this is what I do behind closed doors. You know, what you are is what you are, whether it's because of anything, one reason or another, generic or whatever. That's your preference. And
Do you have any interest at all in the inquiry as to what
Well, why
determines
should I?
sexual...
Well, you know, what would they inquire about how I do it?
You're in a...
You
we're not
know, the
talking
way
just about
I do,
sex.
what I do behind closed
You're
doors?
in a
No, you
minority.
wouldn't. Right, so why should I care what you do?
Yeah.
Really?
Can I get you tickets to another show, maybe?
I agree, Phil. I think we ought to just stop examining why these people are gay and just accept them for the people who they are, like we accept our
And
friends.
Phil, that was my line that I thought before I came on the show, that I thought this topic is so tired we don't need to talk about it anymore. What we really need to focus on is how mistreated people who are gay are treated by this society, because people see us as different, and we're
However,
not.
I think there are repercussions to sexual activity societally.
Do your husband and daughter mind that you were once a lesbian?
No, my husband accepted. I told him before I got married, and he accepted me totally. I think my daughter had a little more trouble with it, but she loves me very much now and accepts me.
Yes, sir.
For the guys on the left. When you were growing up, did you think about, or didn't your friends have you play basketball and Army and all that just because you...
We played those things because we grew up in a normal childhood environment where that was the kind of thing you did in a small town. I have to admit that I was never very attracted to sports at all. I did more things
And
like...
I didn't play Army and whatnot. I was a swimmer, competitive swimmer for 12 years. I was incredibly involved in extracurricular activities from 5th grade on. You
Same
know,
here.
Class leader, the whole 9 yards. But
I come from a country, we don't have a lot of, it's only just been brought out, homosexuality.
What country would that be?
New Zealand. A lot
You don't have any gay people in New Zealand?
Yeah, we do, but it's not out in the open. I've got a question for Joanne. Why, instead of knocking homosexuality and lesbianism, why aren't you helping people to accept it and come to terms with it?
The reason is that I have discovered that it actually hurts the person. Homosexuality hurts the person, and it also hurts society. So I have decided that it's better to call people to that principle, which is inherent throughout all of created things, that the male-female mates together and reproduces and makes after its species. And there isn't any such species homosexually. So therefore, I think it's beneficial to help people realize the truth.
Okay. The sissy boy syndrome and the development of homosexuality, as Richard Green, MD, is his interesting addition to a library of scholarship now about sexual status, how we get this way, who are we, and throughout this whole inquiry, Dr. Green and the people with whom he works are very sensitive to the issue of the prejudice. We do live in a homophobic society. I should say that New Zealand and England, from which beloved country we have just returned with the Donahue Show, appear to be less publicly addressing these issues than is the United States. So maybe there is something we do good here.
I'm also a lawyer. In addition to being a psychiatrist, I'm also a lawyer. And I think the bigger issue here is not the nature-nurture issue, but what about the civil rights and civil liberties of homosexual people in terms of parenting?
But I happen to think that your work and the work of your colleagues makes a contribution toward the reduction of homophobia. I truly do. I hope it does. I think if we give people light, they'll find their own way. I think the more we know about science, the more we accept Darwinian theory, for example, the more impressed we are with the God that I know you probably pray to every day, and also with the fact that there shouldn't be a moral judgment passed on this issue.
We get into a real trouble in this country when we decide to impose our morals upon other people.
Also, there are religious groups that encourage and endorse their homosexual followers. There's the Metropolitan Community Church, and there's Dignity Incorporated for Catholic gays in this New York City and nationally.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
anyone would like to write to us, that was our address
That's
here in
why
New
we
York.
put it up there.
Thank you.
Hi, see, I'm expecting, and I just want to know, you keep saying genetic. Should I have a test or something so I'll know?
There is no test, and there shouldn't be one.
If it is, would you have an abortion?
Right.
Would you like
Yeah.
to know?
No way, I just want to prepare myself so I can be psychologically ready.
Yeah. Just pray that he doesn't have gray hair.
I always thought I was very liberal, and I always thought people should do what they want to do, and it's none of my business.
Right.
But I did feel sorry for them, and I wondered now, how do homosexuals feel? You say you don't want to change, you're very happy, and you're very happy. Well, if you're happy, I want to start, not feeling sorry for you anymore.
Well, but
what
you
is
have
the
to do
feeling?
this.
What is
No,
the
There's
feeling?
no need to feel sorry
You
for
should
her.
feel sorry, but you might elect elected officials who, in fact, endorse civil equality
And
for gay
who
people.
stop federal
Feeling
funding for
sorry.
ATT.
The problem is not feeling sorry for us individually. It's collectively, I think, as a group, we are so discriminated against, and it is allowed
All right,
by,
but
by
how
the
do you
Constitution.
feel about being homosexual? Are you all happy? I mean, you
I'm
can't
very
all be.
happy.
I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life.
I'm involved in a relationship, have been for 5 years. I lead a normal life. I go to work every day. I hold a job.
Does your lover have AIDS?
No, he's negative.
And you wouldn't rather change it. You'd like it this way.
I never have thought about changing.
Okay.
To me, have you ever thought about becoming gay? To me, that's it. Okay, see, that's an easier argument for...
You what? You thought about it.
Yes, let me just say that a lot of times when I'm asked that question, have you ever thought about becoming straight or being straight, I think the best way to answer that is by asking that person, have you ever thought about becoming gay? To me, I've never known anything else. It's innate in me as heterosexuality is to other people.
Sir.
What I'm trying to ask is, have you ever had a heterosexual relationship?
Yes. I lived with a
And
girl
you
for 2
decided
years
that
in
it wasn't
college.
worth it?
Surprises you, right?
It
It's
was
very
boring.
surprising.
Oh, yeah, it was-
Because it seems like without,
To me-
sex was created
to
for
me-
procreation. Without it,
That's
if
not
everyone
true.
was gay, we wouldn't have another
We're not
generation.
in
There's plenty
danger.
of people who procreate.
We're
I
not
don't
in
think
danger of
everybody needs to.
underpopulation.
And I don't think sex was created just for procreation.
Okay, I always feel, too, that everyone should live his or her life as they so desire. But what about the AIDS issue? I think that's what's really brought so much negative attention to the homosexual community.
It has,
I mean,
but
we
in
really
this
have a
country-
problem.
let me say this.
In this
Are
country,
you still,
Yes,
what
but
about your
AIDS
sexual
is not a
activities with your
homosexual disease in every country.
On a worldwide basis, AIDS is 90% heterosexual. Only in this country has it proven to be a homosexual disease, and quite frankly, now transmission among homosexuals is at 0 level because
Right.
we as a group have taken the necessary
AIDS is a
precautions.
disease of acts, not of people.
Right, and you have to understand that as a community, the gay and lesbian community were the ones who rallied around themselves because government would not fund
not.
any
At all.
research.
And AIDS
when
is spreading
when
much
AIDS was
faster
only
in the
IV
drug
drug
abuse
users
community right
and
now.
homosexuals, NIH was turning down grant after grant after grant. And then one day a hemophiliac came down with the disease, and in a matter of hours, the grant was approved.
Over here, please.
Once again,
Question
second
for
class
Dr.
citizen.
Green. Do you apply the sissy boy syndrome to females also?
Again, tomboys are very different from sissy. The word tomboy is not stigmatized. People don't tease girls for being tomboys. They tease boys, not in the same way as sissy.
they do.
The word sissy is a pejorative. It's an angry, taunting term.
Phil,
These kids
got
have a
beat
lot
up.
of conflict being called sissy, rejected by the peer group, rejected by their fathers. Their parents bring them for some kind of psychological help because the kids are unhappy. Tomboys don't go through the same kind of torment.
Oh, yes.
Anita?
I think that that's not true. I mean, first of all, I think you're assuming that all gay and lesbian people come from economic backgrounds that they can be shuttled off to psychiatrists or therapists. I think women who grow up as strong, independent, confident women are often ridiculed. It's maybe
They're
in a different
ridiculed in
way.
adulthood in the marketplace. But
as
we
children-
celebrate little girls who hit home runs. We do.
I got beat up every day for 2 years when I was a little kid, from 5 to 6 years old.
For doing what?
For not going out with boys, for refusing to go out with boys, for not playing with dolls, for playing
5 and
basketball.
6 years old? That was some
Yes.
neighborhood you grew up in.
For not
Hey,
playing with dolls.
you know, you grow up in Roxbury. You try it. And I got beat up every day because I refused to go out with a member of a kid who was in a gang.
Well, I hope you don't Can you tolerate the doctor's observation?
I think
happen to think
certainly,
he's right.
but
I
when-
think we clobber sissy boys.
Well, yeah,
and
because we want our
think
men
tom
to
boys
be-
are cute. Tom girls are
Yeah,
cute.
until a certain age,
That's
until
also-
they hit puberty, and then we're supposed to straighten
You
out.
have to realize that his study is only a small part of the homosexual community, after all. The sissy boy syndrome is really, there are many boys that didn't have those feelings at all
True.
that still have problems with
back to this
homosexuality.
genetics
This
episode.
sounds like a long question.
No.
I'll give you a chance to
Quick.
ask it in just a moment.
Gay child, so you want to be prepared. They're an excellent group. They're called Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Yeah, okay.
Sir.
I was just responding to this lady's question over here about genetics. If homosexuality is a pure genetic disorder, if you want to call it a disorder, I'm sorry, but then since homosexuals do not procreate, wouldn't it naturally be selected out?
That's a very good question. Terrific.
Homosexuals do procreate.
10% of all societies everywhere for all time have been gay. So?
No, I've done a lot of research on lesbian mothers. They procreate.
What does your shirt mean? Silent equals dead?
Yeah. Explain that for us.
It's a symbol from the, derived from the ACT UP organization, which arose from New York. It's a recallance of what can happen if people are quiet and let a general genocide happen amongst a community.
You two guys on the end, how is your relationship with the female as compared to the male?
And, you mean my heterosexual relationship?
Sexual.
You know, it was fine. We're very close friends today. We're very close friends.
Same
It's just not at all what I was.
It's not intimate, however.
It wasn't here. I mean, there's a difference. I mean, for me, it was like there was a piece of glass between the two of us, but with a man, it's very different.
I'd like to ask the brothers, when you finally came out to your parents, were they really surprised, or do they have an inkling?
Well, I came out first, and they said to me, you know, we never thought it was you, we thought it was your brother Dick. And I kind of rolled my eyes and didn't say anything because that was his choice to come out to them when he so chose to do that. They were very surprised about me. They said they knew about Dick from early on. I think I knew about Dick from a very early age.
Yeah. A lot of parents know.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the doctor, is it possible to go into a homosexual lifestyle just for jollies? In other words, I hear about a lot of these couples leave. Yeah, they leave. They leave their heterosexual relationship and they go into
just for a moment, then they're back again.
No, I think the
No,
barrier
I
is-
know where they've left after being married and had children.
I think the answer depends more on whether you're a male or a female.
And I
There are
think
barriers against males for entering into sexual contact with males that
And I
don't
think
exist
an
for
important
women.
point is that it's not just sex. It's about a relationship.
also-
It's not just, I mean,
a person who
heterosexual.
leaves a marriage to join a gay life is a person who was gay before he got married. Is it not
The
so?
males, yes. The women may not be. The women
Women may
different.
not be.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think you both are too cute to be gay.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
For a transcript of today's show, send $3 to Donahue Transcripts, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 1007, or call 212-227-READ.
Okay? I have two little boys, and I just wondered if it would help if I take them fishing and stuff.
I think they'd like to do that with their
Kids
mother
need two
anyway.
parents. Yes. But the gay community would want me to say to you that your question bespeaks of prejudice. And as long as we don't get rid of it, where, you know, they beat up gays now, we seem to be afraid of gay people. We beat them up, we throw stones at them, we make jokes about them. The Sissy Boy Syndrome and the Development of Homosexuality is Richard Green's book, and I am pleased to call it to your attention. I did not introduce Mrs. Hiley's husband. Would you kindly at least stand and say hello here, and thank you for being here. My apologies for not having more time. You must be proud of it.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
True Value Hardware Stores. Your place for service and selection where you'll find long-lasting power with their exclusive True Value alkaline batteries.
The Drake offers an exciting weekend in New York at a special price. The only Swiss hotel on Park Avenue. For reservations, call 800-DRAKE New York or 212-421-0900.
Yes, ma'am.
If our environment is going to make more gay